Should you run the dedicated Home Assistant operating system or run it inside a Docker container? In this video, we'll look at the practical trade-offs of both setups so you can decide which path is right for your smart home. First, let's briefly explain what these two options actually are. HAOS is an all-in-one dedicated operating system. Once installed on a drive, it manages your hardware and updates entirely, behaving less like a computer and more like a dedicated smart home appliance. The Docker option, on the other hand, runs Home Assistant as an isolated service on top of an existing operating system, like Linux or a NAS. This allows it to share hardware resources alongside your other applications. For many users, HAOS is the default recommendation, and for good reason. The biggest advantage of HAOS is the supervisor and the built-in App Store. For example, if you need an MQTT broker, installing it is as simple as clicking Install in the App Store. Home Assistant handles the container networking and configuration entirely behind the scenes, so you don't have to. Maintenance is also incredibly straightforward. When a new update is released, you get a notification on your dashboard, click Update, and the OS handles the rest. Backups are just as seamless. The built-in utility in HAOS saves your entire setup, including all your installed apps, in a single file that's easy to restore. If you want an appliance-like experience with minimal system administration, HAOS is usually the easiest path. However, if you already run a home lab or a home server, Docker might look much more appealing. When you run Home Assistant in Docker, you lose the supervisor and the App Store. If you want companion services like MQTT, you have to set them up yourself as separate Docker containers. That might sound like extra work, and it is, but for many users, this separation is actually a benefit. First, Docker is incredibly lightweight and efficient. It allows you to maximize your hardware. If you have a mini PC or a NAS, you can run Home Assistant alongside other self-hosted services without needing separate virtual machines or dedicated hardware. Second, you have complete control over your host system. You aren't locked into the operating system environment of HAOS. You can manage your storage, network, and security updates exactly how you want. Updates are also highly predictable. Updating a container using Docker Compose is incredibly fast and highly reliable, with virtually zero risk of breaking your host OS. So, how do you actually decide between the two? If you just want a straightforward appliance-like setup, HAOS is probably your best bet. It's essentially plug and play, so you don't have to touch a terminal. That's especially true if you're putting it on a dedicated device like a Raspberry Pi or a Home Assistant Green. But if you already run a home lab or a home server that stays on 24/7, Docker starts to look very compelling. It's the ideal route if you enjoy having full control over your operating system, want to maximize your existing hardware, and are comfortable managing container networks. For my own setup, I've always used the Docker container approach because it gives me the freedom to run highly customized services on the same hardware, like deploying an AI agent to automatically manage and control Home Assistant. By the way, I've put together a document summarizing every video, link in the description. Let me know in the comments whether you're planning to run HAOS or Docker on your own hardware. As always, your likes and subscribes keep me going. Thanks for watching.